The witness protocol, the last. Observatory, the station hung in eternal. Music silence at the edge of. Everything, observation platform. Meridian 7 was built by the galactic. Assembly 300 cycles ago for one purpose. To watch the void of KTH and ensure. Nothing ever came out, the black hole. Sat at the center of the viewports like. A wound in space itself, surrounded by. Crown of dying light that twisted in. Bent in ways that hurt to perceive. Commander Thelzon of the Vraxian Empire. Stood at the primary observation deck. His 4 eyes tracking the latest. Readings, his crystalline skin reflected. The pale glow of the monitoring. Equipment around him, representatives. From 17 different species maintained. Their vigil. They had been here for generations, watching, recording. Ensuring the galaxy remained safe from whatever horrors might emerge from that. Darkness, but today was different, today. They were not watching for something to come out, today they were watching. Something go in, the synth choice. The Synthari had been part of the galactic assembly for over 2,000 cycles. They were a peaceful species known throughout the galaxy for their philosophical wisdom and technological marvels. Their home world orbited a binary star system, and their ships moved through space like silver ribbons, beautiful and efficient. 3 months ago, the Synthari Council made an announcement that shocked every civilization in the known galaxy. They declared their intention to enter the void of KTH, not as refugees fleeing catastrophe, not as scientists on a desperate research mission, but as an entire civilization making a conscious choice to transition into what they called the next stage of existence. The assembly had tried everything to stop them, diplomatic missions, scientific arguments, even threats of sanctions. But the Synthari were resolute. They shared their research, their calculations, their philosophical frameworks. They believed the black hole was not an ending but a doorway. They claimed to have detected patterns in the radiation, mathematical sequences that suggested intelligent structure, purpose. Most species dismissed it as mass delusion. Commander Thelzon had read every report, studied every equation. He could not find fault in their logic, yet his instincts screamed that this was wrong. Now through the vast windows of Meridian 7, the Synthari fleet approached, thousands of ships carrying billions of souls moving in perfect formation toward the event horizon. Their vessels glowed with a soft silver light, and as Thelzon watched, they began transmitting their final message on all frequencies. We go. Not in fear but in hope. The Synthari Ellers's voice echoed through the station speakers. We have calculated the path. We have found the pattern. Beyond the veil of this singularity lies not destruction but transformation. Watch. For us friends of the stars, perhaps one day you will understand and follow. The crossing, the process took exactly 7 hours. The Synthari ship spiraled inward in a choreographed dance that defied the chaos of the black hole's gravity. Their engineers had spent decades planning this route using gravitational assist and precisely timed thruster burns to control their descent. Thelzon watched as the first ships crossed the point of no return. They did not tear apart as physics predicted. Instead, they seemed to stretch, their forms elongating as they approached the event horizon. The silver light intensified, and for a moment Thelzon could have sworn he saw patterns flickering across the darkness itself, as if the void was responding to their presence. One by one the Sci-Fi vessels vanished, their telemetry signals cut off precisely at the event horizon, exactly as expected. The radiation detectors spiked, then settled. The gravitational wave monitors registered the mass entering the singularity, and then it was over. The void of KTH looked exactly as it had before, an unchanging darkness crowned with twisted light, but an entire civilization was gone. Around the observation deck, the representatives of the assembly stood in stunned silence. Some species believed the Sci-Fi had found transcendence, others believed they had witnessed the greatest tragedy in galactic history. Thelen believed they would never know the truth. The new arrivals, 6 weeks after the Synthers' disappearance, the humans arrived at Meridian 7. They were the newest members of the Galactic Assembly, having achieved faster than light travel only 40 cycles ago. Most species still considered them primitive, barely civilized, prone to violence and irrational decision-making, but Thelzon had studied humanity. They were dangerous, yes, but not in the way others assumed. They were dangerous because they refused to accept impossibility as an answer. The human delegation consisted of 12 individuals, led by a woman named Dr. Maya Chin. She was small by human standards, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that seemed to absorb every detail of her surroundings. Behind her came a mix of scientists, engineers, and military personnel, including a stern-faced man introduced as Captain James Rivera. "Thank you for allowing us to observe," Dr. Chin said in flawless galactic comment, her translator device barely necessary. "We heard about the Synthari. We wanted to see the site for ourselves." "There is nothing to see," Thelzon replied. "They're gone. The black hole consumed them as it consumes everything." "Perhaps," Dr. Chin said, her voice carrying a note that made Thelzon's crystalline skin prickle with unease, "or perhaps they succeeded." The anomaly, Dr. Chin and her team set up their equipment in a section of the station that had been vacant for decades. The assembly allowed it more out of courtesy than any belief that the humans would find anything new. After all, the galaxy's greatest minds had analyzed the void of KTH for centuries, but 3 days later Dr. Chin requested an emergency meeting with Commander Thelzon. She brought data, streams of it displayed on portable holographic projectors that floated around the conference room like curious fish. Her fingers moved through the air, highlighting sections, zooming in on specific patterns. "We've been analyzing the radiation signature from the black hole," she explained, "specifically the Hawking radiation being emitted from near the event horizon. Standard physics predicts it should be essentially random thermal noise." "Correct," Thelzon said. "This has been confirmed by thousands of measurements over hundreds of cycles." "Right, but look at this." Dr. Chin isolated a specific frequency band. "This is the radiation pattern from before the Sci-Fi entered, random as expected. Now, look at this." She switched to a current reading. Thelzon leaned forward, his 4 eyes widening. The pattern was not random. It showed clear periodicity, regular pulses that repeated in a complex but discernible sequence. "This could be instrument error," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We thought so too, so we checked it against your station sensors, against 3 different human satellites we deployed, and against background readings from 5 other systems. Dr. Chen's expression was intense. Commander, the pattern is real. And it wasn't there before the Sci-Fi went in. Around the conference table, representatives from other species began to murmur. A Villian physicist stood up, her fur rippling with agitation. You are suggesting that the Centauri are somehow transmitting from inside the black hole. That is impossible. Nothing can escape a singularity. Nothing can escape using conventional matter or energy, Captain. Rivera spoke for the first time, his voice calm but carrying weight. But information itself, quantum entanglement, there are theoretical pathways. This is speculation built on anomalous readings. Another representative argued, we can send a probe. Dr. Chin interrupted her, voice cutting through the objections. Specialized probe designed to survive closer to the event horizon than anything we've built before. We can gather more data, see if there's a pattern, a message, anything. Thelzon felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. The safe choice was to dismiss this, to maintain the protocol of observation and nothing more. But the patterns in Dr. Chen's data called to something deeper in him, a need to understand. The council's decision. The debate lasted for 3 days. Species argued from every philosophical and practical angle. Some claimed investigating the black hole would dishonor the Synther's memory. Others feared awakening something dangerous. The more cautious voices advocated for maintaining the status quo, but the humans were persistent. They presented detailed plans, safety protocols, contingencies. They volunteered their own resources, their own risk. They asked for nothing but permission. In the end, it was the sheer audacity of the human proposal that won approval. The assembly had spent centuries watching. Perhaps it was time to reach out. Construction of the probe began immediately. The humans called it Messenger 1, a name that carried both hope and hubris. It was unlike any probe the galaxy had seen, a sphere of exotic materials shielded with fields that bent space itself, carrying sensors capable of detecting quantum fluctuations in environments where atoms ceased to exist. 2 weeks later, Messenger 1 was ready. The entire population of Meridian 7 gathered on the observation deck. Dr. Her chin stood at the launch control, her hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. Launching. In 3, 2, 1, the probe shot forward, its engines leaving a trail of bent light. It accelerated toward the void of KTH, toward the point where the Sci-Fi had vanished, toward the edge of everything known. For the first hour, telemetry flowed back perfectly. The probe's instruments recorded gravitational waves, radiation patterns, space-time distortions. Dr. Chin and her team worked frantically, analyzing every byte of data. At the 2-hour mark, Messenger 1 crossed into the region where tidal forces should have torn it apart, but the human engineering held the probe. Continued transmitting. At hour 3, something changed. Commander, Dr. Chin called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement. We're receiving structured data, not just sensor readings. There's a signal embedded in the quantum field fluctuations. Thelzon moved to her console. On the screen, patterns emerged from chaos, mathematical sequences, geometric forms, and then unmistakably fragments of Sci-Fi language. There's someone whispered. The probe pushed closer to the event horizon. The signal grew stronger, more complex. For 17 minutes, humanity's creation transmitted wonders. From the edge of oblivion, and then at hour 3 and 18 minutes, exactly as Messenger 1 touched the event horizon. Itself the signal changed. What came through was not Centauri language, it was something older, something vast, something that made every translator on the station scream with competing interpretations, but beneath the chaos, one message came through clear, rendered in pure mathematics that transcended language. Come and see, then silence. Messenger 1 was gone, swallowed by the void. Dr. Maya Chin turned to Commander Thelzon, and in her eyes he saw the thing that made humans so dangerous, unwavering determination. "We need to send a crewed mission," she said simply, and in that moment Thelzon knew that everything was about to change. Beyond the event horizon, the impossible decision, the emergency session of the Galactic Assembly Council was the most attended in recorded history. Representatives from 43 species filled the grand chamber on the Assembly's capital station, their voices creating a cacophony of fear, excitement, and outrage. Above them all, the holographic display showed the last transmission from Messenger 1, frozen on those two words that had shaken the foundation of everything they thought they knew. "Come and see." Commander Thelzon stood at the central podium, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights and fractured rainbows. Behind him, Dr. Maya Chen waited with her human delegation, their faces calm despite the storm of debate swirling around them. "Absolutely not," roared Ambassador Krellel of the Vraxian War Council, his massive form rising from his seat. "We barely survived the Synthes' folly. Now you propose to throw more lives into that cosmic graveyard. This is madness." "It is not madness," Dr. Chin replied, stepping forward. "We received a message, a deliberate communication from beyond the event horizon. The Centauri may have found something extraordinary. We cannot ignore this, cannot or will not," challenged Elder Cirrus, the Verilian matriarch, her ancient eyes fixed on the human scientist. "Your species has been part of this assembly for barely 4 decades. You do not understand the weight of what you propose." With respect, Elder Captain James Rivera spoke up, his military bearing evident. "Even in the diplomatic setting, understanding comes from investigation, not fear. Humanity has always believed that the greatest discoveries lie beyond the boundaries of what we think is possible." Aquilarin representative, their bioluminescent body pulsing with agitation, added their voice. "The humans speak of courage, but this sounds like recklessness. The physics alone makes survival impossible. Even if something exists beyond that threshold, whoever goes will never return." "Maybe," Dr. Chin acknowledged, "or maybe the Centauri discovered something that changes our understanding of physics itself. The signal we received contained mathematical structures we've never seen before, geometries that shouldn't exist in normal space. If there's even a chance they survived, if there's technology or knowledge that could benefit all species, then it belongs to them." Ambassador Krellel interrupted. "The Centauri made their choice. If they live in some pocket dimension inside that singularity, then that is their realm. We have no right to intrude." Thelzon raised his hand for silence, his authority as station commander carrying. "Wait, Dr. Chin, explain your proposed mission parameters. The Council deserves full transparency before any decision is Made the mission proposal, Dr. Chin. Activated her portable holographic display. A three-dimensional model of the void of KTH appeared, rotating slowly around it. A proposed flight path glowed in amber light, spiraling inward in a pattern that mimicked the since final approach. We've designed a specialized vessel called the Threshold, she began. It's built on principles from human engineering, combined with technologies shared by 6 different assembly species. The hull uses Vraxian crystal matrices, Quillerin energy dispersal fields, and a human-developed space-time manipulation drive. She zoomed in on the ship's design. It was smaller than most exploration vessels, sleek and angular, covered in overlapping plates that seem to shift and flow like living metal. Crew will be minimal, 5 people. Volunteers. We've calculated that the ship can survive up to 43 minutes past the event horizon before structural integrity fails. That gives us time to gather data, search for the Centauri, and if necessary, attempt communication and return. Asked Elder Cirrus, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Unknown, Dr. Chin admitted. Theoretically, if the Centauri found a stable region within the singularity, a pocket of warped spacem that allows matter to exist, then there might be a path back or quantum entanglement. Communicators should maintain a connection with Meridian 7 regardless of the space-time distortion, but I won't lie to you, this is a one-way mission. Unless we find something extraordinary. Inside, the chamber erupted again. Some species argued this was suicide. Others claimed it was humanity's right to risk their own lives. A few, like the philosophical Yanari, suggested that perhaps this was destiny unfolding, that the Centaur's invitation was meant specifically for a species bold enough to answer. Captain Rivera stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise with military precision. I will command this mission. My crew has already been selected, all volunteers who understand the risks. We're not asking for permission to risk assembly lives, we're asking for permission to risk our own. And if you find nothing, Ambassador Krell demanded, if this message was simply the death scream of sophisticated equipment crossing the event horizon, you will have sacrificed 5 lives for nothing. Rivera's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. Then we will have died trying to expand the boundaries of knowledge in human history. That's called exploration. It's how we reached the stars in the first place. Thelzon watched the exchange, his 4 eyes tracking the emotional currents in the room. He had served the assembly for 6 decades, maintaining protocols, ensuring safety, watching the black hole with careful distance. But something in the human proposal resonated with a part of him he thought had long since crystallized into rigid caution. I propose a vote, he announced. Not to approve or deny, but to grant humanity the autonomy to proceed. They asked to use assembly facilities at Meridian 7 for launch and monitoring. They ask for nothing more. Each species must decide, do we allow them to make this choice? The vote was close. 17 species voted yes. 15 voted. Number 11 abstained, but it was enough. The humans had permission to chase the impossible. The Threshold crew, 3 weeks later. The Threshold sat in Meridian 7's primary hangar, a testament to what desperation and brilliance could achieve. When combined, Captain James Rivera walked through the ship one final time, checking systems, running his hands along bulkheads that hummed with barely contained energy. His crew was already aboard. Lieutenant Samira Ak, the navigator whose mathematical genius had plotted their spiraling descent. Dr. Adrian Cross, the physicist who had spent the last 15 years studying black hole mechanics and still admitted he had no idea what they would find. Engineer Marcus Webb, who had personally overseen the construction of every critical system, and Dr. Myachin herself, who had refused to send others where she would not go. Ship status, Rivera asked, settling into the command chair. All systems nominal, Webb reported from engineering. Power core at 100%, shields calibrated for maximum gravitational resistance. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Through the viewport, Rivera could see Meridian 7's observation deck, crowded with representatives from dozens of species. Some had come to witness what they believed would be a historic moment. Others had come to watch what they were certain would be a tragedy. Commander Thelzon's voice came through the communication channel. Captain Rivera, this is Meridian Control. You are cleared for departure. I want to say. The Vraxian paused, and Rivera could hear the emotion in his voice despite the species barrier. Good luck, all of the galaxy is watching. Copy that. Control, threshold is launching in 30 seconds. Rivera looked at his crew. They were afraid he could see it in their eyes, but beneath that fear burns something stronger, the unquenchable human need to know, to explore, to push beyond every boundary and see what lay on the other side. Here we go, he said softly. The threshold launched, engines blazing bright against the darkness of space. The descent, the journey to the event horizon, took 6 hours of careful maneuvering. The ship's instruments screamed constant warnings as gravity intensified, as spacetime itself began to twist and compress around them. But the threshold held together, its exotic materials and overlapping shielding doing exactly what the engineers had promised. Dr. Chin monitored the quantum communicators, maintaining their link with Meridian 7, even as the universe outside began to distort. Those entangled particles kept them connected, a lifeline of information spanning the gap between normal space and whatever lay ahead. Approaching event horizon in 2 minutes, Aku announced. Gravitational stress at 70% of maximum tolerance. Rivera gripped his armrests. Through the main viewport, the void of KTH dominated everything. Light bent around it in impossible curves, creating multiple images of distant stars. The darkness at the center seemed deeper than the absence of light. It was the absence of possibility itself. Picking up the same signal patterns, Messenger 1 detected. Dr. Cross reported his instruments displaying cascading data. The mathematical structures are consistent. Whatever's generating this, it's real. And it's active. 1 minute to event horizon. The ship began to shake, not from thrust or turbulence, but from the fundamental warping of spacetime around them. Rivera watched the viewport and saw their own ship reflected back at them, light taking impossible paths, showing them from angles that shouldn't exist. 30 seconds. Dr. Chin looked up from her console, her face illuminated by the strange light from the black hole. If we don't make it back, she said to Rivera, it's been an honor. We'll make it back, Rivera replied with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. 10 seconds. All hands brace for crossing. The numbers counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Threshold crossed the event horizon, and reality changed the other side. Rivera. Expected destruction, tidal forces. Ripping the ship apart, systems failing. The crew dying in seconds as physics turned hostile, instead the shaking stopped. The viewport cleared, and what they saw made no sense. They were still moving forward, engines firing, but the space around them had transformed into something beautiful and terrifying. Vast, geometric structures floated in the darkness, shapes that hurt to look at, because they existed in more dimensions than the human mind could process. Rivers of light flowed between them, carrying energy in patterns that pulsed with rhythm and purpose. I'm reading. Stable space, Dr. Cross said, his voice barely a whisper. This shouldn't be possible. We're inside the event horizon, but there's structure here. Order. It's like someone built a city inside the singularity itself. Quantum link still active, Dr. Chin reported. Meridian 7 is receiving everything. We're still connected, then. We're not alone, Aki said, pointing at her navigation display. I'm detecting power signatures, thousands of them. They match Synthari energy profiles. Rivera felt his heart pound. Can you get us a visual? Working on it. The geometry here is weird. Light doesn't travel straight lines, but I think yes. Main screen. The viewport shifted, adjusting for the distorted physics, and there, floating in impossible space, was a city. It was Synthari architecture, unmistakable in its flowing silver lines and organic curves, but transformed, expanded, integrated into the strain geometries of this pocket realm. Ships moved between structures, their lights leaving trails that shouldn't exist, and on every surface patterns glowed, same mathematical sequences that had been in Messenger 1's final transmission. They're alive. Web breath. The Synthari are alive. Communication signal pinged. Dr. Chin opened the channel, and a holographic image appeared. A Synthari there, translucent form shimmering with colors that shifted through spectrums the human eye couldn't normally perceive. Welcome, travelers from beyond, the Synthari said, their voice carrying harmonics that made Rivera's bones vibrate. We are Scholar Vendor. We have been expecting you. The path called to you as it called to us. You have proven what we always believed, that consciousness itself is the key to transcending the boundaries of conventional space. How? Dr. Cross stammered. How are you surviving here? How is any of this possible? Vendar's form rippled with what might have been amusement. The singularity is not an ending, it is a transformation. Inside the event horizon, the rules change. Time and space become fluid. We have learned to shape them to create stable pockets where matter can exist, where consciousness can thrive. We have built a civilization beyond the veil, free from the limitations of the outer universe. And the message, Dr. Chin asked, you wanted others to follow. We wanted to share what we discovered, but we knew only those with the courage to face the unknown would come. Your species, humanity, we have been watching your broadcasts, learning about you. You have that rare quality, the willingness to leap into darkness if there is even a chance of finding light. Rivera stood from his chair, approaching the hologram. Can others come here? Can this place support more than just the Synthari? It can. Then they're confirmed, but the journey is perilous. It requires more than technology. It requires a fundamental shift in understanding. We can teach you. We can help you build bridges between our realm and yours, but Know this, what we have found here is not paradise, it is simply different. Another way of existing, some will find it wondrous, others will find it terrifying. The bridge, for the next 27 hours, time moved strangely in this pocket realm. The crew of the Threshold worked alongside the Sci-Fi. They studied the physics of the inner realm, documented the city, learned the basics of how consciousness and what could shape the malleable spacesum of the singularity's interior. Dr. Chin and Vendar collaborated on a revolutionary idea, a stable pathway, a permanent bridge between the normal universe and this inner realm, not for mass migration but for communication, for trade of ideas and knowledge, for the expansion of what was possible. The key is quantum entanglement, Dr. Chin explained to Rivera as she worked. We can use it as an anchor, a fixed point that exists in both realms simultaneously. The Sci-Fi have the infrastructure here. If we can establish a matching station at Meridian 7, we can create a communication network that transcends the event horizon and physical travel. Rivera asked. Possible, but dangerous. The journey will never be easy. It requires specialized ships, trained crews, and a willingness to accept that going in means changing. No one returns exactly as they were. Marcus Webb, working on the ship systems, called out, "Captain, we're at 39 hours. Since crossing, we need to make a decision about returning soon." The Threshold wasn't built for extended operations in these conditions. Rivera looked at his crew. They had accomplished the impossible. They had found the Sci-Fi alive, discovered a new realm of existence, and laid the groundwork for revolutionary discoveries. Vendar, he said to the Sci-Fi scholar, "We need to return to our people to share what we've learned, but we'll come back with more ships, more people, more questions. We will be here." Venner replied, "The inner realm is patient, and now that the bridge has been begun, we are no longer isolated. This is a new chapter for both our civilizations." The return, the journey back, was even stranger than the journey in. Following the Synther's guidance, the Threshold navigated through the twisted geometry of the inner realm, finding pathways that should not exist, riding currents of warped spacesum that pushed them toward the event horizon's interior edge. And then, impossibly, they punched through. The universe exploded back into existence around them. Normal space, normal stars, the familiar darkness punctuated by distant points of light. Behind them, the void of KTH churned on, unchanged and eternal, keeping its secrets from casual observation. Meridian 7, this is Threshold. Rivera transmitted his voice with exhaustion and triumph. "We're back, and you're not going to believe what we found." The response from Commander Thelzon came immediately, the Vraxian's voice breaking with emotion. "Threshold, we never lost your signal. We watched everything. The entire galaxy watched everything. You did it. You actually did it." Epilogue: a new era. 3 months later, Meridian 7 had been transformed from a simple observation station into the gateway between realms. The bridge station, as it came to be called, hosted researchers and diplomats from every species in the assembly. Some came to study the Synthes realm, others came to debate the implications. A few brave souls began training for their own journeys across the Threshold. Dr. Maya Chin stood in the observation deck, watching the void of KTH with new eyes. It was no longer a tomb or a mystery. It was a door, and humanity had been the key that opened it. Captain Rivera joined her carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thinking about going back in, he asked. Always, she replied with a smile. There's so much more to learn. Sci-Fi have only explored a fraction of what exists in there. They say there might be other civilizations inside, other species that made the crossing long before them. Then I guess we'll need more ships, more crews, more brave fools willing to jump into black holes to see what happens. Dr. Chin raised her cup in a toast to brave fools everywhere. May we never stop wondering what lies beyond the horizon. They drank, watching the darkness that was no longer dark, feeling the future unfold around them with all its terrifying, magnificent possibilities. Humanity had done what the galaxy thought impossible. They had followed the Sci-Fi into the void and returned with wonders. And in doing so, they had proven what they always believed, that no barrier was insurmountable, no mystery unsolvable, no darkness too deep to hold back the light of curiosity and courage. The age of exploration had truly begun.